Thank you for joining me today, and welcome to Office 365 Organizational Tools. We're going to be learning how to use 5 different tools as part of the Office 365 package today. You won't necessarily want to use all of them after class, but hopefully you'll find things in one or more of them that might be helpful for you and might serve as good time-saving devices. A few things that I want you to be aware of before we start. Depending on what you pay or what your organization pays for Office 365, there are different packages out there. So if you're unsure what programs you have available to you, which of these apps you can use, be sure to ask your system administrator or just experiment a little bit and see what you can find. Also, be aware that Office 365 is continuously updated. Part of being a cloud service is that changes are made to it just about all the time. This is great because it keeps it up to date. The downside is that by keeping it up to date, things are often changing. So after class today, if you watch this a month after I've recorded it or 2 months, you might find that some things are slightly different. To give you an example, the tool that I'm going to talk about called Power Automate used to be called Microsoft Flows, and they just changed the name. So these things do happen over time, and keep an eye out for any changes that might occur. Now, we're going to be working with Office 365 in front of you here, and I'm going to be taking these things one at a time. And so we'll go through details and different options that are available and try to give some examples that you can use on your own. Let's get started working with the calendar. If you haven't done this before, you might not be aware that to get to the other applications in Office 365, we can use the square in the upper left here. If you're used to seeing this from the email view, when we are looking to get to the other applications, we would again click that square in the upper left. But sometimes you can see the ones that you want to get to in the shortcuts on the left-hand side, as we can see the calendar right now. So when I click on the calendar, it takes me to there. Now, I'm using an account that does not have a lot set up here, and so we're starting with a very basic and blank calendar. And I want to take a minute and go through everything that we have available. So looking at this screen, starting in the upper left, we see New Event. We're going to come back to that later. That's how we're going to create events for the calendar. As we go across to the right, we have it set to today right now. That means it is on today. How would you use that? Well, if you were scrolling forward in your calendar several months, maybe you're looking through all your upcoming events, and you're kind of far away, but then you just wanted to jump back really quickly, you would click today. And you saw from what I just did that we use these arrows here to jump from month to month. We also have the pull-down menu that can allow us to get to whatever month we want there and go into future years, however we want to handle that. I'll jump back to today. Now, as we continue to go across to the right, we have the view control here. Right now, we're looking at an entire month at a time. If you prefer to see it just what's happening today, if you have a very busy calendar and a lot going on, you might want to see all the details there. Or maybe you want to see the work week or the actual week, or go back to the month. Next, we have the share button. That's if you wanted to share this calendar with somebody else in your organization. This doesn't apply if you just use Office 365 for yourself and you have your own personal account, but if you're part of a organization or company or school and you are all part of a big group together, you might want to share a calendar with somebody else in it. So I can click share here and I can start typing in a name, and you see people in the organization pop right up, and there I am. And I could select that and I could share this calendar with me. Now I'm not going to do that. I'm going to close that. And finally, print. If you wanted to have a paper copy of this, now there's nothing on this calendar yet, so that wouldn't be all that useful. But if you had a lot of things entered in here, you can print it up and it will generate a print copy of the calendar. So that's the top bar as we go across there. Now down the left, we see the dates listed for this and showing which one is highlighted. That's another quick way to jump to one spot or another. It actually just shows you what it is you're highlighting as we go through here. I'm going to create an event in a minute, and then we'll see how that takes effect. Underneath here, we have Add Calendar. That's an interesting one. This is an important point that we might want to be aware of. When I click on that, I have the option of creating an additional calendar that will appear overlaid with the existing one. So this is something that you might do if, say, you have multiple schedules that you're keeping track of. Maybe there are a couple of different kids in the house and they both have a lot of events, and you want to keep track of theirs with their own color coding so that you recognize whose is whose. Or maybe you have multiple work schedules that you need to keep track of, or different organizations you're a part of, or whatever it might be. You want to have more than one schedule so that you can differentiate between the two of them. You would do this by creating your own calendar. Now you can create a blank calendar. That is a straightforward way to just start from scratch, give it a name, and choose whatever color coding you want. I'll do that in just a moment. You can edit the existing list if you wanted to get rid of one that's there. Add from directory is if, again, you are part of an organization and they have shared calendars available. You click that and see what was available there. Subscribe from web is if you go to a website and they have a calendar available, you could put in the website address and it would end in an ICS file, as you see right there, and then you would be able to pull that in. Upload from file is something that you would do if you were, say, migrating from a different email service and you had a calendar filled in there. So maybe you have a Yahoo email address that you don't much like using, but you're thinking, oh, I've got so much stuff in my calendar, I don't know if I could ever get rid of this because I hate to lose all that work that I put in to add that there. You can export that calendar from Yahoo or Gmail or whatever other service you use, and you could then upload that file here, and it would pull that calendar in. There are also things like school holidays that you can look up, that you can pull in the school calendar from whatever zip code you're in. So if I type in, Bloomingdale zip code here, I could see different school districts available. So I'll take that one. And there we go, and I've successfully added that. Or there are holiday calendars, so you could choose major holidays from different countries if you wanted to include those. Right now we have the United States holiday calendar already included. Choose different sports leagues if you want to automatically have all NBA games appear on your schedule. You can do that too. And TV, and lots of options out there. So a lot of different things you can do. The one you're most likely to use is you want to create a blank calendar and start from scratch. Though if you have used other emails, don't forget about the upload from file option that we talked about earlier. That's a key one. There are some fun options with the TV and other choices here, but for personal things, I find those are going to be the most useful for you. So I'm going to choose Create Blank Calendar. I will give this a bright red color so it stands out. And I'll give it the calendar name, Example. And I'll add it to my calendars. So I click Save. And now I'm done adding calendars. You see all those times when I added those, this window stayed up. I could have closed it at any time. I'm going to close it now. And we go back here and we see calendar. I can check United States holidays, and then all of a sudden we see Mother's Day and Memorial Day appearing there. All NBA games. We are in the playoffs, so we don't have a lot scheduled there. And then Example. Now, what you do with this is when you create items, you will see them appear on the calendar here, but you'll have the choice of what calendar you want to add them to. So I'm going to go and choose a new event. And when I do that, it pops open this window. And we're going to take our time and go through and explain everything that's available on this as well. So save is what you do once you're done creating this event. So we're not going to do that just yet, but we'll do that when we've filled in all the information. Discard is what you would do if you decide, no, I don't want to actually do this. I want to get rid of it. The scheduling assistant is a little bit more of an advanced tool that allows you to pull up and align different people's schedules when you're pulling a number of people in here. It's a little bit beyond the scope of today's class, but it can be a useful tool. I like it quite a bit when I'm working with my department and adding a number of people to a meeting. This is what you want your schedule to show you as for the time period that you're putting down here. So if you want it to be clear that you are busy for this scheduled period and nobody else can add you, then you can leave that as is. This is, again, something that would be relevant if you are part of an organization where you are sharing calendars and working together. If this is just your own thing, then you don't need to worry about that. Categorize, you can put different color categories if you want things to stand out. And you can put in response options for people that you're adding in here, that you are requesting a response or that you are allowing them to forward it on to other people. You can also choose to hide the attendee list if you want. That's, again, a little bit beyond the scope of today's class. One more thing that I want to show you. If you use OneNote, if you don't worry about that. But if you do, that is a tool that you can use for projects and for working with groups of people. You can include this event that you are creating here in your OneNote calendar, or in your OneNote book, as they call it. And so you can choose that, and it will open up existing ones and go there. We have an entire class on OneNote. It's a relatively complicated application, but it can be a fun one to learn to use once you get interested in it. So keep that in mind if you're looking for new things. So for my event title, I'll type in class. Now, attendees, you can add people that you want to have attend this event. And when I click that, because this is part of an organization, this is part of the library's email, you see a lot of choices come up. And if I start typing my account name, it can throw me in there. Now, it can have suggested times that are available for everyone, or I can ignore that, and I can choose the day that I want, say the 31st, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Notice some other options that we have available here. We've got the all-day choice. So if this event is something that is just happening that day, or maybe you have something that is due that day and you want to make sure you make a note of it, but there's no specific time that it's due, you can check the all-day option. And that way it eliminates the time frame for it, and it just takes that entire day listed on the calendar. We have the option to repeat. How often do you want this to happen? Is this something that happens every week, every month, every year? You can customize it by choosing which days of the week every week. This can be pretty helpful for things that you do a couple times a week. I'll say I do this every Monday and Thursday. And now it repeats every Monday and Thursday, and this is right now until November 22nd. That was something in the customize that I missed there. You can choose when this repeats to, and I can say, well, this actually is going to repeat until July 1st. And then I save that. So if you have, say, practice schedule for your kid's soccer team, and that happens every Wednesday night until the end of the season, you can have that repeating. You don't have to add that into your calendar every time. You can check Wednesday, and you can put the date when it ends, and then you're done. And we click Save. And if you want, you can add a description. You can put in a room or a location for the meeting. So you could put in a street address, or you could put in a meeting room if this is something that takes place at your office, whatever is appropriate. In the description, I could say teaching. And once I have everything the way that I want with this, I can say send. And you notice it changed to send from save. That's because I included somebody else in this. If I get rid of the extra person, then it's just save, because I'm just saving it to my own calendar. But when there's another person involved, it becomes send because you are inviting someone. Now click Save. And now we see class on Memorial Day, and then on the Thursday, and then when I go to next month, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and you see them appearing over and over again. Now, one thing that I didn't show you with that as we were going through is choosing what calendar it was from. That simply appears in calendar. If I create another event, I'll just call this one test, I will set this for Wednesday. I'll change the time to the afternoon, and I'll set it for a longer block. But this time I'm going to change the calendar up here at the top to my example calendar. Now, when I click Save, event created. And we see in the example calendar, test listed right there. So we can go back and forth between our calendars by clicking on those and choosing what to show. And there they are. And so you can see all the different events appearing in the different calendars. So if you wanted to separate them out, when you create the event, you choose which one it appears in. So those are the basics of working with the calendars. Hope you found that helpful. Now let's move on to some more organizational tools we might want to use. The next two apps I want to discuss go well together. These are the Planner and the To-Do apps. They both are ways to keep track of tasks that you need to work on and put it together a timeline for yourself. I'm going to start out by looking at the Planner app. So I'm going to again click on the 9 dots in the upper left-hand corner. And I will scroll down. I might need to show all apps here until I find Planner. The purpose of the Planner app is to create a timeline and a number of tasks that need to be done, as well as pulling in other members of your group or organization that might need to be involved in it. Now you might be thinking, this is just my own office account, I don't have a group with other people. That's perfectly fine. You don't need to involve other people in this if you don't want to, but if you are part of a workplace or an organization that uses this, you can use this as a time saver to pull other people into it. And so with that, we can see the welcome screen here, and we have the choice of adding a new plan right away, or taking a look at my tasks. We're going to start out by creating a new plan. When I click that, that's by the way the same thing you would see here. It's asking for a plan name. Now I can make up whatever I want. I will say build website. I see this choice here. Public means that anyone in the organization can see the plan contents. Private is only members that you add can see the plan contents. And so I'm going to go with private here. That's for the most part, if you're assigning jobs to people or putting things in people's schedules or timelines, you want to keep that information private. But if you wanted everyone to be able to see something, maybe it was a company-wide plan that was being put into place, you might go with public. With the options, it just allows you to add a group description if you're so inclined. I'm going to skip that for right now and click Create Plan. Now I see it's created the Build Website plan. You start out with what they call these buckets across the top of the screen. The To-Do bucket is the one that's built in and is always there. We're going to add tasks to that in just a moment. But you can add more of them as you want. And so after I enter in my first task here, and I'm going to call this one Begin Planning, and I'm going to set the due date for it to today, and I will assign this to the account that I am currently in, the HVAC account. And after I've assigned that to somebody, I just click back on that and I can click Add Task. And there we go. And now we have created a task, Begin Planning, for today. And now it's all ready to add the next one there. But before I do that, I'm going to add a new bucket here, and I'm going to call this Design. And I'll add a new bucket here and call this Implementation. I'll probably spell it wrong. Now, so I'm going to have 3 different categories of things that we're doing here, just some basic to-do items, design items for the website, and implementation. And as you see, there's an Add New bucket over there. I could keep on going and adding more and more of this, but I'm just going to keep it relatively straightforward and go from there. Say I add a design task here, and I call this Define Color Scheme. And I can set the due date for a month from now. And I could assign this to my assistant. And you see when you add a new plan, you get the choice Assign and Add, and that's letting him know, that will let him know that he has been added to this. Now I can go over here for another task, and I can say my web address, and I can assign a due date for end of the week, and I could assign that to myself. And again, I'm going to add that. And I add that task. Oops, I forgot to add the task with the previous one. My mistake there. So you see, if I just click outside of it without adding the task, it goes away. So that again was Define Color Scheme. I set the due date for a month from now. And I added so I say Assign and Add, and I click there and I choose Add Task. Now, you can see that up at the top, we have some information here. And I did that first so that we could have something to look at. So across the top, we have build website is the name of this that I've created. Notice the little star next to it. If you start to have a lot of plans in your planner, you might want to add a couple of them to your favorites so you can get back to them quickly. So if I click that add to favorites, that now appears underneath favorites. As we go to the right, we're looking right now at the board. We're looking at things that are available here. And then we have charts, schedule, several things in the ... that we'll come back to later on. And then here we have the members. HVAC is the one that I am signed into. That's just a generic account that I'm using for this. You'll see my account logo there for Sean Luster, my assistants listed there. And then under members, you can add more members to this plan if you want without assigning tasks to them. So say you have a supervisor that you wanted to be able to see this, but you don't want to assign him any tasks. You could add him to this plan so that he'd be able to see what everybody is up to, but he doesn't have to have any tasks assigned to him. Or if you just have assistants that you want to pull in with things, but you don't want to assign anything specific to them, you could add their names as well. Under the group by bucket, you could choose how these things are arranged. Right now they're grouped by bucket, but you could also choose to group them by due date or priority, so they could be shifted all around there. I'm going to leave them by bucket for right now. If I changed it to due date, then you would see today, this week, and future. Now, let's take a quick look at adding another task here. I'll put in call first meeting. I'll set the due date for a little bit later there. I will assign that to myself. And I'll add the task. The reason I wanted to have more than one thing is I do want to have the example of completing a task for you to see. So when you have completed something, you would check that like so to indicate that it's done. And now you have completed a task here. So the more things you add, the more that you can complete with this. Let's get into some more details with this. When I click on one of the items, define color scheme, what bucket is that in? It's in the design bucket. Progress, it's not yet started. I could change that to in progress. Priority, I could change that to urgent or important or medium or low. Change that to low. We can put in a start date if it was in progress. I could say, well, we started it today. Put in any notes. And checklist. This can be a fun one. So if you have a large task assigned, you put something in here and there's a whole lot of parts to it, I could add an item to the checklist. I could say background color. And then I pressed enter there, and then I can add another item, links color, font color, blocks color, menus color. And once I've added all those items to the checklist, I could say, well, we have got the background, the font, and the links color done, but we haven't completed the whole thing yet. So that shows some progress, shows us where we're at. Now I can also, if I wanted to, add an attachment, if I had any files related to this task, if we were working together as part of a group, Charlie could come along and open up a file here showing me an idea, and I could come in and comment and say, yes, that looks good. So this can be a tool that you can use collaboratively to work together on information. So you see here, after I've made those changes, it shows that it's in progress, and it shows 3 out of 5 things are done. And underneath the color scheme, it shows that blocks color and menus color still need to be taken care of. So you see, in this way, you can keep track of what's going on with a lot of people's work all in one place and together. And you can use that as a place where people can post their updates or can look for group input or add more and more information. So this can be a really nice tool with either keeping track of all of your work that you need to do for your own personal project or for working together with a lot of people. And the more stuff that you add, the longer this will grow and the more you'll see there. Now, as we look through some of these other options here before we leave the planner, I'm going to go over to charts, and it shows us 3 tasks left. It says 1 task is completed, 1 is in progress, and 2 are not started yet. And we see the green is completed, blue is in progress, and the gray is not started. We see the different buckets that they're in, the different priorities that they have assigned to them. And we see what the members have been up to. There are 2 things assigned to Sean Luster, 1 assigned to HVAC, 1 assigned to Charlie Wilson. So we can just get a quick overview of the project with that. Some other options that I might want to show you here. The members we've already looked at over there that allows you to do that. Conversation takes you to Outlook and allows you to send emails back and forth for that. The files takes you to a screen where you can upload files that you can share with one another. So if you wanted to have image files or PDF documents or anything like that that you could look at collaboratively, you can have that available. Notebook opens up that OneNote app that I discussed earlier. If you wanted to get into that, that again is a longer conversation, but that has a lot of tools that you can use for working together on a project with a team. Sites opens up SharePoint. That is a whole other thing. If you're not familiar with SharePoint, that is a tool that is very often used for groups if they want to have a shared place for resources such as files or shared calendars or forms they need to work with. A lot of HR departments use that to keep track of materials. So that can connect your plan here to a site if you wanted it to. I can remove this from favorites if I'm so inclined. I can make a copy of the plan if I wanted to share this with somebody else. Exporting the plan to Excel can be a nice thing to be able to do if you want to pull this information out and be able to have it in a file that you can share with people that are not part of the plan. You can link to them, edit the settings, and you can add these items to your Outlook calendar. So a lot of options available there. Now, one thing this does automatically is it does add things into your to-do list. So let's take a look at that. To get to the To-Do app, we're going to again go to the 9 dots in the upper left here. And we'll click on the check mark for To-Do. That might not appear in your first screen. You might need to go to All Apps, but for me, it's right there at the bottom. So I click To-Do. And it's opening this up. Now you see I put in some examples here for us to work with, because the To-Do app works in either a very basic way or it can be integrated with your other apps that exist here. So you can simply add tasks by clicking here and typing in things that you need to do. So I could put walk the dog, and I just type enter, go to work, exercise, whatever you wanted to put in your To-Do app. So you can simply type things in there as reminders to yourself. This can be a good place for notes, to keep track of things that you need to do. But it also works with the other apps that we have, such as the calendar or the planner. Now you can see I checked some already completed apps here, and if I do something and I want to mark it as done, when I check that, it gives us that satisfying ding and it adds it to our completed tasks. We can go as well to the planned choice here, and you can see for today, begin planning for the website is already crossed off because we listed that as done with the planner. If you have a number of plans in your planner and some tasks are overdue, you would see all of those listed today. You would see everything in the to-do list for today is available. So as you get closer and closer to things that are coming up on the schedule, once they have arrived or have passed, then you'll see them as things that you need to do right away. So this is not your calendar for looking forward weeks or months at a time. This is a place to look at things you need to do right now. And so it quickly will pull things out of your existing plans that you have set up that you need to address. You see, you also have the choice of making a new list. So this could be something like recurring task. And in this list, you can add things that you want to be able to come back to. So you could just have something, or whatever you want to have here that you keep checking. So however you want to organize your things that you need to do, you can use this tool. Personally, I find the to-do list to be a little bit immediate for me. I prefer things where I can look forward, like the planner or the calendar. But sometimes if you have a lot going on, you can use this as a quick way to check things that are available. You notice the flagged emails are assigned to you. These are things that incorporate with other apps that you have as part of your Office 365 package. And so if any emails have been marked in Outlook as important or flagged, then they will come up here as things that you need to do. And if tasks have been assigned to you, then you would see those listed as well. I don't have any tasks that are assigned to me in the to-do or planner that are due today, so nothing comes up there. But that is how you would use this as a quick way to get an overview of what you need to address immediately. So again, we have the planner for putting things together for long-term projects and lots of things that need to be done for those projects. So it's not like just listing a project as saying, I need to build a website. It's saying, here are all the steps I need to follow for it. Whereas the to-do gives you the specific tasks that are due immediately and allows you to add things to there quickly or to add more items to it if you were so inclined. The two of them work pretty well together. My personal preference, as I said, is to use more things like the calendar and the planner app. I find those to be more helpful. But this is something you should be aware of if you have a lot going on and you want to get a quick check. What do I need to do right now? What's happening today? Finally, I'd like to discuss Power Automate. To get to that, we will again click on the 9 dots in the upper left-hand corner. And this time, we might need to click All Apps, so you might see it right there for Power Automate. So I select that. And as it slowly takes us to the Power Automate page, there it goes. We arrive at the welcome screen here. And I want to give you a quick overview of what this is, because Power Automate is a much more complex app than the other ones that we've discussed. This could really be a class all unto itself, and if there's interest in it, I'd be happy to do a longer video discussing this in more detail. But I want to introduce to you what you can do with Power Automate just in a very basic level right now. I think of Power Automate as something of macros for Office 365. If you've used macros in the older Office programs, then you know that you can use them to automate several tasks very quickly. Whether you're using Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint, you can have the macros do a number of things for you, either at the press of a button or at a hotkeys use. You can do that for Office 365 as well using the Power Automate, but it actually gives you even more versatility with this, because you can have these things be triggered by events that you didn't even cause. So you can have Power Automate run flows based on emails that are sent to you, or you being added to a task in a planner, or having a form filled out, and it will just automatically let you know. You can have things automatically happen when calendar invites come up. There are a lot of different options available here. I just want to introduce you to the basics of it and how you would get started with it. So here in the home screen, it's giving you a little intro here. Need to free up some time. Power Automate, take on repetitive tasks to slow you down just by connecting to the apps you already use. And you can see it gives you several examples here. It has templates. If you've used Office products before, you're probably familiar with templates as time-saving devices. See here, save a message to OneNote. So if you get a message sent to you in Teams, a message is something like an instant message thing that's sent to you. It will automatically grab that and push it to OneNote and send notifications along there. Schedule a meeting with a message sender. So if somebody sends you a message, you can use Power Automate to automatically schedule a calendar meeting with them. Lots of little things like that. We'll take a look at some more templates in just a moment. There are a lot of tools down the left-hand side here for doing advanced work monitoring and editing the source information and checking the connections between these flows that we're going to create. Flows, by the way, are what they call the individual, let's think of them as macros that we have here with Power Automate. So there are a lot of more advanced tools that you can use down here for checking on those. We're going to stay with the basics today. If we go to My Flows, you will see ones that are already created. Now, I created just one here as a test case on this, and we'll come back to this a little bit later, but we're going to create some more on our own. Underneath that, you see Create and Templates. The templates will show you a lot of options, and we could spend a long time scrolling through this and finding all kinds of fun little things with these. Several of these you might not be familiar with. They might be apps that you've never used before, or things that you would think, why would I do that? But you might see one of these and think, hey, that's a great idea, or that's something that I could really use. Or you might get the idea, I don't want to do exactly that, but that gives me an idea of something else that I might want to do that's similar. So I'd encourage you to play around through these templates and look them over. You see things like get daily reminders in email, so you can have it, send you something every day. You see add an item to SharePoint and send an email, so you can do a couple things at once there. Get an email when OneDrive for Business files uploaded or updated. So if somebody makes a change to a file that you share together, you can get an email for that update. Lots of options there. Send myself a reminder in 10 minutes. So you see the little ding that you can send to have it ding you again in 10 minutes. Lots of quick things that you can do. Some of these would be ones that you would manually start. Others that would be ones that would happen automatically based on things that happen outside of your control. So like receiving emails, calendar invites, people updating or uploading files. Lots of choices here. You can see all flows, and you can scroll through these for quite a while. You'll see more templates and so on. Lots and lots and lots of choices. Or back up here at the top, you can see featured ones. So those are things that they're trying to promote or prominently, things that are shared with you. So if somebody had shared information with you, remote work, I will share actually one with this, and so we'll be able to see that in just a moment. But remote work is for things like OneDrive and SharePoint where you're working remotely. Data collection, email, events, and calendars. I would think email and events and calendars would be ones that would be pretty helpful. But I am right now sharing one of these with us, and we'll come back and take a look at that later. But at this point, let's go over to Create. So here in Create, we see different ways that we can start from scratch. You see automated cloud flow. These are things that are triggered by a designated event. So this would be what I was talking about earlier, where an email is received, or you are added to something on Planner, or a file is updated on SharePoint. You just have something that happens on the cloud that triggers this event and makes it go. Next to that, we have instant cloud flow. These are ones that you would choose to run when you want to run them. So you would go and click on it. That would be the remind me in 10 minutes or generate a meeting with this person, things that you would choose to make happen when you want them to. Next to that is scheduled cloud flow. This is something that will run when and how, you choose when and how often it runs, but it will run automatically from that point on. I'm going to give the example of an automated email a little bit later on in this demonstration. You'll see how that works and how you can have things just go, every day, every week, whatever it is that you need to do, you can have things happen on a schedule. There are a couple others that are a little bit beyond what we're talking about today. Desktop flow, so you can automate processes in your desktop environment. That's if you have these programs installed on your computer as well as available through the cloud. Those are typically more expensive versions of Office 365, so it's unlikely you would have those, but if you do, you can automate things on your computer as well. And business process flow, guides users through a multi-step process. So this would be something that you would do for larger plans or things that involving multiple people in your organization. So let's take a look at some of these. Let's create a scheduled cloud flow. So we click on that, and we're going to add a name here, and I'm going to make this email demonstration. So we want this to start today, and we'll set this to start at noon. And we want it to repeat every minute. Wouldn't be very courteous to the people that we're sending it to, but we could say repeat every day, every week, whatever we want to do. And so I say every week, on which days. So I will select the days that I want this to happen. So even though you set weekly and you might think, well, that means once every 7 days, you can choose which days of the week it will send. So you can make it every other day or every third day, however you want to handle that. I will leave it like that. So right now this flow will run on Monday and Friday every week. So I create it. And you see, this is the screen that you'll see when you're designing flows. It works from the top down, just sequential order. And so you start out with the first step that we created, which is the recurrence. So this is the automated schedule that we have just put in. If I click on the ... you can see some options here. You can look at the settings, go into more details, or you can simply delete it. We've just created that, so we're fine with it. We're going to now add the next step. What do we want to have happen now? And so every week on Monday and Friday at noon, what do we want to have happen? And so we have choices. We can use any of these. We can go through custom and choose something else. I'm going to keep this relatively straightforward. If I scroll down here, we can see more options here. As we go through this, let's just send an email. Now, add an action for the email. You can find out what you can automate in the mail. So there's a lot of different things that are available with this. I'm going to choose the send an email notification right there. And now it's asking who should this go to. So I will type in my address here. If you want to send this to somebody else in your organization, you could of course do that. The subject will be, this is our class email, and the body will be, yay, it worked. Now, under the advanced options, you have the choice to add more email addresses if you're so inclined as to who it's going to. You can carbon copy to people as well, blind carbon copy if you don't want them to see each other, and you can choose to add an attachment. Adding an attachment is a little tricky with this. When you do this, you can choose it as dynamic content, but it works better if you create a link to a file that's on the web. So if you have the option to upload a PDF or an image to someplace on the web and create a link to it, that will work more consistently than adding the dynamic content and uploading it. Otherwise, you would want to make sure that this file was stored in your OneDrive account. That way you'd be able to share it better rather than something off of your computer. Loading something off of the computer will not work on a routine basis. But I'm going to hide that for now, and we are going to save this. Now, before I do, I'll point out we could add more steps if we wanted to. If we wanted this to create a notification that was sent to people through the messenger on Teams, if we were a group of teams there, if we wanted to add something to an Excel spreadsheet, any choices that we wanted to, we could add more things from the available options that were there. For right now, we're going to keep it simple and click Save. It says your flow is ready to go. We recommend that you test it. Great idea. Over here on the right, you see the Save button, which I could click that again if I needed to save any changes that were made. Flow Checker takes a look and sees that there are no errors available. And then finally, I can click Test. I'm going to test it manually. So I'm going to say Test it right now. Click that. It says this flow uses mail, review connections and actions. I say Run Flow. And your flow run successfully started. To monitor it, go to the Flow Runs page. I say I'm done. Now, one quick way to see if that worked, I can go to my email here, and then I see this is our class email. Yay, it worked. If you want to unsubscribe from this, please use these forms. So that was an automated email that we just generated, and now that will send automatically at noon on Mondays and Fridays. And so we would always be a good idea to check back after the first time and make sure these automated things work. But during that, if you had a weekly notice that you needed to send out, or a monthly reminder, daily safety message, whatever it was, you can send things automatically to yourself or to anybody in your organization that you want to with this. So with that, let's go back to our flows, and I want to show you one more thing. So we go back to Power Automate, and I go to My Flows, and we can see the one that we just created there. Now if I go to Shared with Me, what I want to show you with this, if I go into Editing here, is I've created a flow here that is checking an external source. So this is pulling something, and this is from one of the templates, by the way, so this is why I encourage you to check out the templates and see some fun things here. This is pulling from an RSS feed. If you're not familiar with RSS feeds, they are something that are generated by websites that people can pull the information from them automatically instead of having to go to the website to check it. Now this is checking a website that searches for security breaches. So this is one that if you have any concerns about privacy or identity theft, you might want to create this on your own. And this is checks for security breaches and sends a notification saying there's been a new Have I Been Pawned security breach entry, tells you the website to check at, and it sends me an email. So every time a new website has been broken into, this lets me know, and I can quickly go there and check to see if my email address was compromised. I created this a while ago. It's worked out well for me. I get 1 or 2 notifications a week, and usually they are for websites that were not an issue for me, but it's a quick way to check and to be aware of problems that might occur. I showed you this one because I wanted to show you that you can work with external sources as well as things within Office 365. So this is pulling from a website that's totally unrelated to Microsoft, but it pulls the information in and sends it along to here. And that's something that's found here in the templates. So that's why I encourage you to run through these templates and to find a lot of different things that are available for you with that. So again, the flows, fairly complicated. This is something that you can create similar to creating the macros. We could talk about this for an hour. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. To get started, I'd encourage you making some basic ones from the templates that they have available, or taking those ideas and adapting them to things that might be useful for you. Create them, test them out, run through them, and see how that works. The more time you spend with this, the more things that you'll find that you can do, and that might be either fun ways for you to save time or to pull information from different sources without having to bounce around, or just kind of neat tools to make and ways to make your planning work even better. I hope this introduction to these apps was helpful for you. If there's something you'd like to see more or less of, we'd love to talk about this in more detail. Let me know, and I'll be happy to do further classes. With that, thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.